All right, all right. Melanated family. Me and my sister Sonia is back for another week. Saturday version of the Thursday show. We gonna come and give it to you though. You know what I
Right.
mean? We ain't gonna miss a week, but life be lifing. I gotta take care of people in my family, but y'all my family too, though.
That's
You know what I
right.
mean? So we always gonna come here. So thank you for joining another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. If you haven't heard yet, we got merch. The merch is in the streets. I'm shipping out orders. I'm dropping off shirts. I'm doing what I gotta do to get this out there to the people, man, to create this brand for myself. So melanated state of mind. That's all me and Sonya be talking about, really, on this show,
That's
is
really and
having
truly it.
a melanated state of mind in different forms, like different news articles. We always try to be as fair as possible, but loving your people, your family, yes, your immediate family, the people in your house, loving those individuals and making sure their best interest is handled is your job as a father, as a mother. That's your job. But you got a global community of Black people too that you should care about,
Yeah.
that you should take an interest in their well-being, because as they go, we all go, right?
Right.
If we look at the people in our society who may not have money, who may be struggling, who are Black, who may be going through things, that's not all Black folks. Some
Right.
Black folks is well to do. Some Black folks ain't never lived in the hood, they never drove by one. I know how it works, but if we're going to help society, we got to help the people at the bottom first.
Yes.
That's kind of how it works. When you look at homelessness, when you look at any type of neglect happening in society, most of the people who are suffering from these things are people who don't have a lot. And unfortunately, we Black in America, so sometimes that's us. So caring about your people is important. So melanated state of mind shirts. I got the podcast shirts. Got it in white, got it in gray. DM me. Send me an email. Melanatedconvopod at gmail is the email. My Instagram is melanatedconvo100. Hit me up. We'll get you a shirt. I'm gonna keep creating different designs. We're gonna get this thing popping, man. So in the
Absolutely.
studio with me today, my sister, the creator of Ascribe Educational Consulting, right? This sister has made a business out of going into businesses, schools, environments where Blackness isn't appreciated. Excuse me, environments where you don't know you should appreciate Blackness, environments where you don't know you should be courteous and don't
Right.
touch her hair, don't ask the stupid questions. Maybe been living in a white enclave your whole life and you may not like us, but don't know shit about us.
Right.
So when you finally get around us, it becomes a very awkward moment. So Sonia can help y'all with that. So on the show, everybody, please welcome my sister Sonia Williams Lewis. How you doing, sis?
I'm good. I'm good. It's our Saturday version. I love it. Life be lifing. And yeah, we got to keep this momentum going and this thing going in these conversations because they are so important to this melanated state of mind. It is
Mm-hmm.
so important that we think outside of the singular individual and think collectively as a community,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of where we fall in that community. And it's not just the community around the corner, the few houses that can touch your house.
Mm-hmm.
It's the global community. So
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Yep, it's the global community, and we need to figure out the best way to unify every type of Black person.
Yeah.
I know every Black man or woman don't share my experience of having a single mom and growing up in environments where drugs were being sold. That's my story, but that's not every Black person's
Right.
story. We need to be very aware of that. And even when it's not cool, but we the same though.
Absolutely.
What is that common thread that we can find that'll still make us love each other? That's not gonna make you judge me or not gonna make me judge you. You see what I'm
That
saying?
part.
So
That part.
speaking of a melanated state of mind, speaking of some of the stuff we go through as Black people, first story today. Me and Sonia was gonna talk about it last week, but we was just, we were just going through it. So Colin Kaepernick said something very interesting. He released this statement and talked about this on a podcast I think he was on, but his show in black and white that's on Netflix talking about the ex NFL player Colin Kaepernick. That show was eye opening. It was interesting to see that, Sonia, where basically a white family
Yeah.
adopts a Black child and they mean well. Like they're adopting them because they truly want to help,
Absolutely.
but they haven't done the work yet to check the bias that they may have. They haven't done the work yet to check, how do I truly, I know I love this kid,
Right.
but how do I truly feel about Black people?
Right.
See, because Colin mentioned how certain situations would come up where he wanted to wear his hair a certain way. He wanted to do certain things that leaned into his Blackness. And his parents at times, I think, knee-jerk reaction was like, no.
Yeah.
So Sonia, when you see that, because like I was talking to you about, this happens in a white couple adopting a Black kid, but in Black households, you'll have a mom or a dad who pretty much tells the kid, you look too Black.
Yeah.
You look like a thug, right? So when you hear that type of thing coming from white parents, but just parents in general, what do you think?
You know, it's so interesting. First, let's get to the Colin situation, because we do have an influx of Black and brown children who are being adopted and cared for at higher rates by white families than Black families, just because there is a shortage, not a shortage by design, but a shortage by approval process, right? Because we know all these systems have mechanisms that prevent Black families from adopting Black children. Because I think that there are enough of us out there who could and would take in a child, but because of something in our background, it prevents us, right? I can remember when my one of my bonus children, his daughter, needed to be cared for. He and his significant other at the time were having domestic violence issues, and the court said, well, who's the next of kin that will take this child? My husband well into his 40s and had a situation where one of his friends used his ID, and he ended up in jail at age 18 briefly for a week because he couldn't prove who he was because the other guy had his ID. And that was on his record, and we had to go through like 30 years later trying to get this off his record so that we can have the grandchild in the house. And I say that to say that processes sometimes make it harder for Black folks to get into these systems and do the right thing by our children. But when we're speaking of Black children and white families, or Black children in other families, right? Because racism is not just a white thing. Racism is a conditioning that we all kind of lean into, because this is the system of America. And so when I, as a Black person, say, we shouldn't be doing that because we know that that can be detrimental to our lives, right? Those are defense mechanisms, because we've seen people who end up in situations where, yeah, if he hadn't have been doing this or looking like that, maybe that wouldn't have happened. I really and truly think that those are excuses. However, excuse or not, this is a conditioning, it's a mindset of white supremacy. And I see white folks, Black folks, Asian, Latinx folks all the time who pass judgment on Blackness. So we take racism a step further and we say anti-Blackness, because when you get to the root of racism, it's a scale. It's the scale of how close am I in proximity to whiteness, and how far am I from Blackness. And being anti-Black at the root of racism is really and truly the foundation that holds racism together. Because at the end of the day, it's not about the different races, which we know are false in the first place. I'm against Blackness, and I'm going to do everything possible. So even when Asian families come to this country, when Latinx family or immigrant folks come to this country, and they say, oh, I see that this system is against Black folks, so I need to emulate that whiteness to the best of my, possibility. I think that Colin is very much onto something. This is his lived experience, right? He's seen firsthand that I could not appreciate, accentuate, articulate all those things that were Black. And I say all the time, I do trainings with organizations. One of the arms of my business is that we work with foster care agencies and foster care systems in the courts. And we see all the time when we're doing these various trainings, that it's not the intention, it's the I have to make sure that this kid has an opportunity to be the best successful version of themselves. And
Yeah.
so we do a lot of culturally sensitive training with I need you to know how to comb black hair. I'm gonna be upset as a black mama and I see a black child with a well-intentioned, loving white or other family, and their hair look like a mess.
Mm-hmm. This
And
is true.
it's the reality, right? Or their skin is not protected and taken care. There are little things about us, about melanated skin, that's necessary. You know, you're gonna have to get some lotion and cocoa butter in a way that
So yeah, hey, so Sonia, it sounds like you saying if you're gonna adopt a child in America, every culture has its cultural norms
yes,
and the things that they're used to. If you're gonna adopt a black child, first we gotta put you through a we gotta put you through a black course. So you
yes,
can know about the music, you can know about
yes,
the hair, you can know about the history, so you can know what the fuck you getting into. You know what I mean? That's important.
absolutely.
And Colin, I know other brothers like Colin who I'm sure the biracial element in our society is difficult. I've
Yeah,
heard about how difficult it is. So I'm half black, half white. That's my makeup. But the white folks don't think I'm white enough.
right,
The black folks don't think I'm black enough.
right.
See, but Colin, like some other brothers I know, got that nigga wake up call early. Like, you know
Early.
what? I got the white in me, but nobody around sees me as white.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna walk through this because somebody was telling me why he walking through the world like he black. I mean, he white and black. You don't get it. You do not understand. They never called Barack Obama the half black president.
No.
They never said he's white in with some white folks on stage with him. No,
No.
he's a Negro.
Right.
One drop rule. You got a little bit of black in you, you're all the way black. So Colin, I think, like some other brothers I know, said, "Hey, I'm gonna embrace this. This how
Absolutely.
you gonna treat me. This how you gonna talk to me. I'm gonna embrace this." And like everybody need to realize, as much as I care about our history and I read our history, Colin Kaepernick is more impactful. When I talk about impact,
Yes.
not on a sport, not on the Hall of Fame, not on the logistics of a sport, impact on black society, he's up there with Muhammad Ali. He's up there with these kind of individuals who put their livelihood on the line
Yes.
for us. Because think about it, he ain't got hella black kids running around here.
No.
He's not doing that shit for his little black children. No, he doing it for us ultimately.
Absolutely.
So all the strife he gets and everybody talking about he should play, he shouldn't play, what he did that was wrong. Well, really, when we talk about legacy, he's etching his name in the history books
Absolutely.
by doing the things that he's doing. So I salute that brother in every like the process he's taking to get his story out, to make sure we understand how he feels, but get other black stories out there as well. Because he just dropped a documentary about, I think it's about Turlock, the city he
Yes.
grew up in,
Yes.
about the police violence in that city. Listen, that's way more impactful to my community than him throwing 4 touchdowns in a Super Bowl.
Right?
That's
Absolutely.
way more impactful. You know what I mean? So I appreciate that, brother Sonia.
Yeah. It's interesting, especially when you know that you are on that line and you have to choose, like, okay, where do I fall? And it's so I think that it's easy to default back to where you feel like, one, the privileges and the benefits are, but two, you say, I'm going to separate myself from the things that are comfortable. That's the hard decision to make. My granddaughter that I just spoke of, she's biracial. Her mother is she's Russian immigrant. And of course, my son, he's black. And people look at her and they're very confused sometimes about who she is, and because she's ambiguous. And oftentimes the question is, are you Mexican, are you Indian? Because people don't want to accept that she's just a little black girl. And while she's very vocal that I'm a Black girl, she also recognizes that there are things about her Blackness, um, and this is just because of her birth and circumstance. Not that she didn't have a loving Black family to raise her. Her grandparents raised her. Both my husband and I are Black. All of our children are Black. Her father is Black. Even though that is her reality and her foundation, she leans towards, I will be 100% honest if I didn't say that she doesn't lean toward, she don't hang out with Black folk. She don't hang out with Black friends other than her cousin, I mean, her nephew, her uncle that's the same age as her. They are good friends and they confide in each other.
Mm-hmm.
But the majority of her friends are not Black.
Yeah.
So her love interests are not Black. And I have to, part of myself is like, girl, I'm gonna need you to have a conversation about who you are in your Blackness, because part of what they see in the world when they see you is whether or not you love your Blackness or not. And so Colin has made a decision that I'm going to love my Blackness. And he's been very intentional, even down to the how I walk, the how I embrace Black culture, the importance of making sure that I'm in connection and in community with other Black people.
True.
That's part of his maturation. It's hard though, right? It's hard as a person who is biracial to say to myself, I got this other side that I can default to that can make my life so much easier. Because when I make that decision that I'm going to lean towards the Blackness, all of the things that come along with being Black, they will be on your back.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that.
Yours, and it can't be erased. Once he took that knee and he wore that afro and he wore, I call them the Cleo braids, the set it off braids, right? Once he did that, it's like, I can't go back. I can't go back to little quiet Colin. I can't go back to telling folks about Turlock. I can't go back to reminding them of how I grew up when I wanted to wear that hairstyle that my mom was like, that might not be a good idea. So we have to be very cognizant of how we welcome and embrace our biracial children into our community, because the world is going to see them as Black. We have to be more appreciative of their Blackness so that they feel like they are part of the family, the community. And
it's funny you say that, Sonia, because in the comments right now, I have a family member of mine, and this is weird. This is how the universe works,
right?
This topic, she didn't know I was talking about this topic, but she is biracial. Her father is white, her mother is Black. She was raised as my sister growing up in New Orleans, like this. Gotcha. We cousin, but we view each other as brother and sister, right?
Right.
She's always been a Black one. Now she's high yellow, beautiful woman, right? Her whole life. We see the curly hair, we see how she looked, but she in the comments talking about, look, I'm Black.
Right.
Even though I have a white side of my family that I appreciate and they love me, like genuinely, like we can say that I'm not viewed as a white woman. Everybody need to realize that, man. So when you are a non-Black woman who wants to be in a relationship with a Black person, a non-Black man who wants to be in a relationship with a Black woman, you got to understand what that comes with.
Yes.
Because if you're not sold on understanding our history and being ready, being willing and ready and willing to fight mentally even for the rights of the young people around you that you now have that's Black, if you're not with it like that, something bad's going to happen, because you got to be in deep with us, because you're going to get the looks, Sonia. You're going to get the looks. You're going to get the questions. And if this young Black kid is with you and you getting the questions and the looks and you don't represent it right, the kid feels the vibe. They may grow up confused, because that's what we don't want. We want kids to be well-rounded, loved, and just go out into this world and be the best they can.
Absolutely.
But we know the racial dynamic of this country sometimes prevents that. So it's like giving your child a tool belt. I would say if I had, because my son has a child with a woman who isn't Black, I don't have a problem with it, because I'm bliggity Black. You know what I mean? So we ain't gonna get away from how I feel about stuff. But I say, look, let's learn that kid's history. the island they're from or whatever. Let's learn that kid's history. Make sure your kid know our history. That's all we gotta do. But unfortunately, if you're in America and you learn the Black history, then the history of whatever other racial ethnic group you're a part of, you may see how the Black gets treated.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened to Colin. Matt Barnes is from Sacramento.
Right.
I just
Another example.
I hooped with this brother. Like I'm semi-familiar with this brother.
Yeah.
But he had the same type of incidents where at his high school in Sacramento in Del Campo, it's all white folks. He got a nigga wake-up call.
Absolutely.
Several times. So he in college and in the NBA and how he talk, how he give it up, everybody say, okay, that's a Black man. But when he talk about his story, this wasn't always the case. I thought I was just a cool athlete at school and everything was going well. And all of a sudden there's swastikas hanging up around the school. Oh, so I'm the biggest athlete here, the best athlete ever in the history of this school, but I'm still a nigga.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a wake-up call. You know what I mean? So shout out to the brother Colin Kaepernick. That's a great dynamic that he's bringing up. And I think it just lends itself to more conversation. Because there's a lot of white people who adopt Black kids. And we want to go deep. Sometimes it's always not well intended.
Right.
Sometimes it's not always for the reasons that we think. But it's something that we need to talk about as a community. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
All right. So next thing I want to talk to you about, Sonia, and I think we're going to watch a quick video about this too, about what is taking place. Hold on. Okay, hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. All right, melanated family. So we have a brother named Malcolm Johnson.
Yeah.
We have a brother named Malcolm Johnson that we in Kansas City. Let me read a little bit of the story here so we can get an idea of what's going on. The family of a Black man who was killed by a Kansas City, Missouri police officer 2 years ago is asking the federal government to intervene after a special prosecutor announced on March 14th that no charges will be filed against the officer. Now, Malcolm Johnson was shot twice in the head on March 25th, 2021. Now, Johnson was shot after a struggle with several Kansas City police officers inside a BP gas station at 63rd and Prospect. Video footage of the shooting showed Johnson as he stood at the counter talking to the cashier when two Kansas City police officers approached him with their guns drawn. Right. The officers grabbed Johnson, and the three struggled as Johnson tried to run away and was tackled by the officers. Several other officers arrived on the scene and joined them. So what they're basically saying, Sonia, is they were looking for someone involved in a shooting.
Yeah.
Supposedly he had a gun in his pocket, right? So when we talk about the transparency between police officers and families, sometimes in these situations, I will say, I would recommend our brothers and sisters to do things differently, just as far as how they interact with cops. But I also lean into what the family is saying, like the family who knows the individual, who knows the temperament of the individual.
Right.
The family is saying something's fishy here. Now they're saying he had a gun in his pocket. This is what they're saying. He had a gun in his pocket. They seen bullet holes come through the pocket, which looks as if he tried to shoot. But basically, once these cops knew there was a gun in his pocket, Sonia, they yelled gun.
Yeah.
And started shooting. So this opens up a lot of conversations as far as if a individual does have a gun in his pocket that's not drawn, how do you approach him?
Yeah.
Is it just gun in the pocket? We got to kill him? Or, tell me what you were thinking when you seen this story, Sonia.
When I saw the story, it reminded me of Philando Castile, who was a Black man in his car pulled over for a traffic violation. And he told them, I have a licensed legal gun. And because cops panic when they see Black bodies and guns, they immediately jump to the conclusion that my life is in danger and there's a threat, right? The threat of Black bodies in and of itself, we see that Black folks who are unarmed get murdered by cops,
Mm-hmm.
So you add the fact that there's a gun in the situation, and there's always going to be that jumping to conclusions. We have to now do something that could potentially end in his life. So I think that the part that I struggle with is, and I'm always going to struggle with, where was the immediate threat and danger?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can't show me that this person is actively engaging in about to use gun in hand, if that's not happening,
Yeah.
I'm going to struggle with understanding why you took someone's life.
And so the dog whistle part of it, because I'm reading the article
Right.
and the one officer says gun, gun, gun. Then they start shooting.
Yeah.
So we got to get to a point where not only is there complete transparency with these police departments, but the fear is, we dying a lot, it seems like, because they scared, man.
Right.
Because they scared. If it's 3 of y'all, 4 of y'all, adult male has a gun in his pocket that's just in his pocket, y'all can't get that from him.
Right.
Y'all can't create some strategy to make sure you extract the gun while making sure your lives are safe.
Yeah.
Why do we always have to end up dying? And then again, I have to believe the families know their loved one.
Right.
They know the intentions of their loved one. And this took 2 years.
Yeah.
This took 2 years. So when we talk about gang violence and how we operate in our communities, we got to realize in America, the biggest gang that affects us is the police department, because y'all can do what y'all want to do. And see, that's the thing. So we talked about before this, we brought up this topic, resisting arrest, like from a black standpoint. How should you interact with the cops once you're pulled over? I say it's almost like being captured by a different army or something.
Yeah.
Like you're behind enemy lines. Do as you're told. Now we're gonna have days where we don't want to do what you're told. We could have just experienced something horrible, and you feel like you're doing, you feel like you're being done wrong. I get that, but ultimately you're behind enemy lines, so you got to chill out. Now, if this brother has a gun in his pocket, he's resisting arrest. Put handcuffs on him and take the gun. Because when you say gun, to me, it's like the gun was pulled out, but it wasn't.
And that's the thing. And so, as we've shared on this show, as a former chapter lead with Black Lives Matter, but really and truly someone who's been doing work in community organizing like forever, most of my life, I've led trainings in community around how to interact with the police. And it's unfortunate that even when we know our rights, so we can know all day long that depending on the state you live in, that you can legally carry a gun, right? Depending on the state that you live in, how you can carry that gun. Can I carry it out on the holster? Can I carry it in my hand? But we also know that in every state around this country, white folks who have guns and other weapons, when they interact with the police, come out alive. There's no cops going in guns blazing and shooting and then asking questions later. That just doesn't happen. So that's the reality. So even when you know your rights, like I know that I'm going down fighting just because of who I am. I'm a Sandra Blandum all day long. Give me my MF ticket and let me go. Right. And if you don't want to give me my ticket because my interaction with you, 1, is stressful. 2, I know that I can die. 3, I don't want to be here and I want to shorten this as quick as possible. And I don't want to be happy while I'm doing it. I don't want to put on a front on my face like you not impeding upon my right as a Black woman, as a Black person to exist in this country and not be harassed for my Blackness. And so even when we know our rights, know that they know what your rights are too, and they are going to infringe upon your rights. They know that they can get away with infringing upon our rights. And so that's the part. Like, how much do I resist? And not resist in the sense of physically resisting. How much do I resist the notion that you can continue to violate my rights? How much am I going to take in this moment? I've been pulled over by the cops for traffic speeding. I'm not gonna lie. I got a lead foot. I got it from my mama. And when I've gotten speeding tickets, I've been pulled over. And sometimes I'm in a happy mood about it because it's like, okay, give me my ticket. Happy in the sense that I know that this shouldn't go any further than give me my
Mm-hmm.
ticket and let me go.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also been in situations where I'm stressed because I'm legitimately trying to get somewhere, and officers are taking their ever-loving mind, just taking their time
Mm-hmm.
and prolonging the situation, which is going to make me later than I need to be. And I have an attitude about it, right? And
Makes sense.
so the resistance in me is like, I'm not happy about you giving me this ticket, but can we get the process? Can we get through this without, don't ask me no small talk. And it might come across that I'm being rude or disrespectful. Your job as an officer is to give the ticket. Your job is not to police my tone, my attitude, what I say. If I call you a name, that's not your job.
This is
You
true.
can't control. And that's where we get sometimes caught up because they think that and foundationally, I don't want to have a debate about police were designed as slave catchers.
Yeah.
And as slave catchers, that meant the target is always going to be black bodies. And so
Mm-hmm.
we can't confuse the two. Not only are we catching black bodies, we're controlling black bodies. So if I'm a black woman and I say, officer, just give me the ticket, he might be one of those egotistical officers and be like, you don't get to tell me what to do. I'm going to make this as hard as possible for you today.
Yeah, trying his best to institute some type of control.
Yes.
And that's what happens a lot. And so that's a great breakdown, Sonia, of the ideation behind resisting. Like why sometimes it's not just I don't want to put my hands behind my back.
Right.
What if I feel like you went about this the wrong way?
Right.
What if I feel like I've been out here for an hour and y'all could have been done whatever was necessary, but we still out here playing these games? As a human, I'm gonna be frustrated. So that makes sense. And
Absolutely.
with this brother, Malcolm Johnson, the police say they did find a gun under him, right? Like after his body was dead, they found a 45 caliber Glock under him. But there's witnesses that say, at the time they thought one of the officers shot each other by mistake. So it's a lot of different stuff going
Yeah.
on. And the biggest thing about these police cases, I think, even when there's times where we see our brother or sister maybe resisting or may have had a gun or may a couple of the things they say happen. Well, the biggest problem is there's just never a lot of transparency.
Yes.
There's always they come to the rescue of the cops in every situation. They draw it out. They act real arrogant about the situation. You know what I mean? So
Right.
so a lot of times the families is just worn down. Like it's been 2 years, it's been 3 years. And with this brother, he was face down on the floor with cops all around him, and he still ends up getting shot. So if I have you in handcuffs and there's 5 of us on your hands, on your arms, what's the likelihood you're gonna be able to pull out a gun and shoot us?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So
Right.
we're gonna continue to talk about these stories, y'all, because we have a horrible problem with the police state of America. And this isn't, and I say this all the time, this isn't just about a criminality thing.
Right.
Because some of us black folks who don't have warrants, who don't have a jail record,
Right.
when the cops get near me, no matter what the situation is, when the cops get near me, I'm very weary of what they want. I'm very weary of
response.
Come on now. I'm thinking, okay, what did I do? What could have taken place to make him be behind me that way? And that's trauma. Like that's a traumatic way of thinking about shit, but that's all based on how they've treated us. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always go back to, 18-year-old Sonia in Meadowview being pulled over. And I've shared this story before by Jim Cooper, who was a police officer at the time. And he's currently our elected sheriff. He was one of our state assembly elected members for a long period of time. And people say that bad cops are out there. Well, the system, as long as they allow for, and as long as good cops are watching bad cops do what they do, then the whole system is bad and corrupt and rotten. Because I
Yeah.
can remember that day when I was 18, and Jim's perspective was, you gonna get your ass on this ground, and I'm gonna point this gun at you so that I can intimidate you, so that you can know who the boss is, because I want to control this neighborhood. Not just you, little black girl, but I want to control everybody that look like you in this neighborhood, and make sure that y'all know who the thumb of the law is when we come rolling through here. And my resistance was, I'm a lady and I'm clean and I'm not getting on the ground. And that was my resistance. I believe with the whole, when I tell you, I still was scared. And with every fiber of my being, I believe that had the little walkie-talkie that was on his shoulder not said, other officers have who they're actually looking for in pursuit, if that didn't come across that day, because the gun was pointed at my head at the moment, I believe that had that little call not come through, and his partner was like, hey, they got him, we gotta go. Because he was in that zone. You know, sometimes you get in that zone and you focused on what you about to do in this moment. That gun was pointed at my, I firmly believe that he would have shot me that day.
See, and that's
that message.
And see, and this is like this conversation we have sometime about policing. I think it's just the universe doing what it's supposed to do, because me and you didn't even know we've encountered the same individual.
Right.
When it comes to being in Sacramento, California, where we're from, we didn't even know we encountered the same individual. And this is a black man, y'all. So this ain't about, because sometimes these cops bleed blue. Like that's who they're going to be aligned to. And sometimes too, and this is just in every type of job experience or every type of community. Like sometimes you just got assholes. Because you can be a cop and a cool person. You can be a doctor and a cool person. You can work customer service and be cool. Some people are just assholes. And this individual was an asshole, but you're working in a public service forum where arresting my family, pulling guns on my family, this is a traumatic experience that I never forgot. Like how Jim Cooper treated my brothers and treated the individuals in my neighborhood. It was like there was animals. It's like they were animals. He didn't know. An 11-year-old me, watching him talk to my brother like this, watching him look at a picture of my father and talk shit about my dead father, like the amount of callous that he displayed, this is unwarranted. Like, because look, he's whatever position he holds now. I've seen this man on billboards, and I can see the billboard a mile away. I never forget his face. I'll never forget his glasses. Like I'll never forget how he looked and how he spoke to my family. You know what I mean? So these individuals have the ability to really affect change in our community. Even if you are in the community arresting people or trying to make sure the crime isn't there, you ain't got to be a dick about it. You ain't got to create an environment where it's me against them. Even if you somebody black. You know what I mean? And so that's important that we continue to talk about this, because the police departments across America, they don't get held accountable enough. Yeah, we seeing incidents where some of them get fired now, which they should. But I say fired, take their pension. Really, it's a money thing. Absolutely. I say if you get into a certain type of incident, no pension for you. We're firing you, and do them like when they get kicked out of the military. Dishonorable discharge. You can't, it's gonna fuck your credit up. You can't go work nowhere else. Like ruin their life like they did to the individual that it happened to. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
All right. So last story for the day before we get to something, because me and my sister Sonia is gonna talk about a couple women from our history. Last week I spoke about women in my life. This week we're gonna highlight a couple other women from entertainment and other facets of our society. So thank y'all for tuning in to another episode, man. Hit the like button, subscribe. Tomorrow the show will be on the digital platforms: Overcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you prefer to listen to podcasts opposed to seeing me visually, go to one of those places. You can check out the show. You feel me? Now, Sonia, I love these school stories, y'all, because Sonia, being a teacher, being a black woman now as a teacher, that's a very unique experience in our society, because we understand, like, sending your kid to school for hella hours with this person that you kind of know. We know our experience by doing it, drop them off, go to work. You have no idea what that teacher's going through. You know what I mean? You have no idea how one individual chooses to manage 19 personalities of different races and hues and all that. You know what I mean? So a ninth grader, Sonia, in Cincinnati, Ohio, a ninth grader who was new to this school, right? This is Schroeder High School in Cincinnati, Ohio. He was new to the school. Now, the family says that basically this kid was bullied by other children, but it got to the point where there was a test or something that he had the answers to. I'm assuming this was a smart kid. Right. He didn't want to help, or other kids wanted him to give his assignment. You know how it be. I'm late on my assignment. Help me cheat. Give me the answers. Well, This young man refused, and 5 individuals commenced to give him the beating of a lifetime. Like they really hurt this little boy bad, right? So we're looking at, in our school system, Sonia, we're looking at the bullying aspect of what happens with our young children, peer pressure, bullying. But a parent, right? If you are in a situation where your child is beat by 5 individuals, he's hurt, he's in the hospital, all of these things. As a parent, Sonia, how should the parent respond?
They should very much be aware that bullying is taking place across this nation on school campuses everywhere. Like, we need to be constantly having conversations about not just our teachers doing things inappropriate in the classroom and you coming home and telling us about things, but are your classmates and your peers on the playground, in the hallways, in the cafeterias, doing things, saying things that are inappropriate. I think that parents have to be really hyper vigilant around the protection and security of their children. We don't live in a society where we can just assume that schools are a safe place for our children, that they are a safe haven for our children. I need for parents to be really taking this seriously, because kids are going to school and they hate going to school for several reasons. And this lends to how successful they choose to be, right? Because if I'm going to school every day and someone is bothering the hell out of me, and I don't want to be in that place, and nobody's doing anything to prevent that behavior from stopping me from being successful, I'm going to hate this place and all of the people in that place. And so there's no wonder why I get it, why certain kids psychologically completely disconnect, and they see enemies, and they create these lists of, "Ooh, if I could, I would take this person out," and create. I understand psychologically how those things happen. The unfortunate part about it is, if someone physically hasn't done anything to you, the schools sometimes don't take a proactive stance in getting involved in maybe the verbal things that are bullying, right? I was a nerd. And I can and we went to a Black school. During that, I shouldn't say we went to a Black school, because if you went to Burbank today, you would not know that it was the school that we went to. I'm just saying the demographics have changed just a little bit. But with that being said, I can remember Black kids, say, let me see your paper. I'd be like, no. But because I knew who I was, and because I was confident in saying no, I didn't feel like the get back was going to be that bad, right? My sister was a gangbanger, so I'd be like, you checking me, you checking her, right? But at the end of it, so I had that as a protection around me. So, but I have to think about the other kids who didn't, right? And this kid sounds like he didn't have that kind of protection. And I don't know, in the article, I don't know if I remember reading whether or not the kids were Black as well. But the reality of it is when we, even in community, are brazen enough to say, I'm going to take this from you because I don't have it. We have to think about that question. We have to think about the why.
The why, definitely the why.
Kids are going to ask for the things that they need.
And
they're going to take the things that they need even if it becomes a dangerous situation. Here in Sacramento, we just had at the beginning of the school year, I want to say it was Monterey Trails High School, where a student picked up a fire extinguisher
I
canister,
remember that. Yep.
hit another kid over the head.
That was
It
my homeboy son.
started
Yeah.
with something else,
Hmm.
because kids are going to express their needs, and if they are not heard or that need is not met, they might do some things and make some decisions that can lead to bodily harm,
Yeah.
lead to their expulsion. So
Yep.
parents, I'm just saying, as a parent, I got 6 black boys where the target is big on their backs,
Mm-hmm.
from 28 to 10. And yes, my husband and I have made the decision to put them in schools that are deemed less violent or less urban. But when they go to school, they are equipped with language. They are equipped with ways to say, I wish you would,
Yeah.
to a student or a teacher.
That's what I was going to get to, Sonia, because we got to talk about the bullying aspect of sending your kid to school and them being bombarded with the different mentalities of the other children, because some of these kids are coming from money, some of these kids are coming from trauma, some of these kids are coming from different forms of abuse. You don't know the melting pot of all the students that's around you. But I think for all parents, right, because I don't like seeing this type of stuff happen. The kid was hurt, but not real hurt. I was reading an article, he was medical assistance was provided, but he was able to go to school the next day. You know what I mean? But the trauma mentally from that can probably always stay around that.
Always.
If he is a black kid, I don't know if these kids were white, I don't know if they were black. This can create a certain mentality in him. But it raises another question, Sonia, about shouldn't we be equipping our children with not only the mental fortitude to handle somebody, but even the physical? Like, my youngest child, if I could do it all over with all my 5 children, I would send all my kids to boxing. I sent a few of them to karate, and I'm not knocking any of the little dojos around the town, but that shit ain't it.
Right.
The kid need to know how to defend themselves.
Yes.
Physically, not to hurt somebody, but just know. So I say, put your kid in the boxing is one thing. Also, if we have these children that are a little nerdy, very into books, not really social, as a parent, it's up to you to bridge that gap for them.
Yes.
Yeah, you may not want to go out the same way your peers do, but we got to create some type of social standard for you, simply so you don't get taken advantage of in the world. You need to be able to go in different events or different avenues in life and participate, even if you're not the most social person, and you have to be confident in yourself, because what we don't want is this young man to get bullied like this and get fucked up. Now he don't want to go to school.
Right.
Now he don't want to be smart.
Or on the worst case scenario, that he goes home and he commits suicide.
This happens.
That's the reality as well.
This happens, Sonia. All of this happens. Not
only is it happening, it's happening in higher levels for Black kids than we want to accept, because there's no news coverage on that. There's no notoriety. There's no public announcement that this kid decided they're going to take their lives because of whatever is going on in those school campuses. So I'm very much, when I talk to parents and I lead parent engagement sessions with school districts all around this state, we have conversations about bullying. We have conversations about, is your child the bully? For real.
Sometimes you don't even know.
You don't even know that you sending a little terrorist to school.
That's two sides of the coin. Your kid is getting bullied. You may need to give him the confidence he needs to go out into the world. Make sure you listen to him when he talks to you about what's going on. Make sure you listen to him. Make sure you provide him with some type of hand-to-hand combat. Not because some kids think, I'm gonna learn this so I can go fuck people up. No.
Yeah.
You're not learning it to just brutalize other kids. You're learning it to protect yourself. But it starts with just being confident in yourself, to the point where you don't even have to resort to violence, but know that's something that I can do. That's why putting your kids in sports, if they're into it, if they're into it, some sort of sports, physical activity, that's good. But also for the bully, if your kid is the bully, they're dealing with some deficiencies too. Yes. They're dealing with some issues too. Maybe at home, maybe they're getting bullied at home, because we know most bullies ain't that tough. That's what children
And
aren't
bullies
fully aware
learn
of.
the behavior of bullying. They
Yeah.
learn that somewhere.
Yeah.
Usually it's this is unfortunate, but usually it's a parent at home.
Mm.
Usually it's an older sibling at home or
Mhm.
someone in the community who has bullied them. And then they only way to assert their power is to find someone who they feel is physically or mentally less than them, and they
Mhm.
become the target of further bullying. It's a perpetual cycle. I can remember one of my boys, my two youngest. Now they bicker and fight at home, but my boys know the way that my sister and I was raised. We always didn't see eye to eye with each other. You know, we were polar opposite. People in community would be like, y'all are not sisters. Y'all are so different. But we were raised by the same parents, raised in the same household. And so my two youngest in particular, like I said, they get into it at home.
Mm.
But when my 13-year-old heard that this kid who was a bully, so my 13-year-old is in 7th grade, just left the elementary school, and he knows about this kid who would go around bullying people. And so that, because that kid was in the 5th grade when my son was in the 6th grade. So he's now the big dog on campus. He's in the 6th grade.
Yeah.
And so his younger brother is in the 4th grade now, but he's not there to protect his younger brother. His younger brother came home and was like, you remember such and such? And he was like, yeah, that kid is a bad kid and he a bully, just leave, stay clear of him. And so the youngest son told his brother, oh, well, he tried to do X, Y, and Z. And natural response, you need me to come up to that school and so we have to have those conversations too, right? Because we don't need chaos to happen on a school ground, because you're going to get some get back to protect our younger brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
I will say, my daddy said, show them one time that you ain't no punk. Show them one time and they'll leave you the hell alone.
Yep.
And so while I'm not an advocate for physically fighting back, somebody put your hands on my child. Suspend my child if you want to for fighting back. But we gonna show you one time that this is a no-no. And I'm going to give them permission. I'm going to be okay with whatever the consequences or repercussions are that come along with that. So yes, there's this balancing act that we as parents and that kids have to figure out. How far do I go with this? I need to protect myself.
Yep.
Touch my child one time and I'm okay with my child giving you just enough. Just enough.
See, because that's you want to, none of us want to advocate violence. Like as adults, especially being an adult Black man, when we get violent as men, a lot of times somebody die. Like it can get real bad, right? But respect in society, not demanding, like I was talking about the other day, not demanding, but commanding. Respect is a virtue in our society, because unfortunately, not just physically, but there's a lot of vultures and manipulators and people who will literally take advantage of you because you're not speaking up for yourself.
Yes.
Literally take advantage of you because they felt they seen a weakness. And this isn't to walk around society expecting this to happen to you, but you will be a fool if you don't think it can happen to you. So individuals, kids can, because I tell my son all the time, look, the little high school environment you in, couple years, you guys are going to disperse. Some of you will never really see each other again. This is a little enclave that was created where it's 400 of you. You see each other every day. So it's like your little community. You get to know everybody. But this isn't the real world. Once y'all leave this world, or once y'all leave this environment, who knows the directions you're going to be going to. But we have this thing in especially some of the Black schools, where the kid who's a nerd, the kid who has the backpack and all the AP classes, and he has on glasses, and we looking at this kid as not being cool. And we need to shift this, because I'm thinking when we look at the situation we're talking about, where this young man in Ohio was jumped by 5 kids simply because he didn't want to give up his homework. They wanted to cheat off his homework. He didn't want him to. We talking about kids who think, some of them probably thinking they're in the cool crowd. Thinking they doing what they need to do to be cool, probably not good at reading or some of these things, so they're making up for it in this way. But as your child, you got to be able to tell young people, Nah, it's okay to be a nerd. It's okay to dig into your books because me and my homeboys be talking about it now. A lot of the dudes we knew who had all the pimples on his face and he had glasses and he had all the AP classes. This brother graduated from USC. He's a doctor now. He just pulled up in a Benz on us. He hella buff. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, okay, that's Howard. Yeah,
Right.
that's him. Because while y'all was
Absolutely.
running behind girls, while y'all was doing what the cool crowd do,
Right.
this dude was going to school. This dude was getting his
Absolutely.
grades up. You see what I'm saying? So we need to shift, especially as black folks. We
Yeah.
need to shift who's the cool kid in school.
Yeah.
Who's really the cool kid? Is it the big athlete who probably don't care about school, make it a point to not care about school?
Right.
Or is it another kid who got all AP classes? He finna graduate and get 10 scholarship offers
Right.
with
Right.
no athletic ability. You
And
see?
I say all the time that all of them are cool. All of those things, all of those beautiful layers of who we
Yeah.
are
All of it's
cool.
cool.
And
Mhm.
so when we begin to see and appreciate the differences that we bring to the table, because that kid who's the nerd can do something for that kid who's the athlete.
Yeah.
Right. And
Once they
bridging
become
those
adults.
kind
Yeah.
of gaps, right?
Yep.
Because if we see each other like I see you, like I swear by like the life experience that I've had, I would not change for the world the fact that we landed in Meadowview and I ended up at Burbank, because my mother up to that time had hand selected the schools that we had gone to, and most of them were primarily white schools. And by the time we ended up in Sacramento, her philosophy was, I don't got to worry about the hood in Sacramento. It can't be worse than Oakland. It can't be worse than Compton, where we lived at for that 2 years. It can't be worse than this. So I don't have to be as hyper vigilant around choosing the school. But I will say that was the one place where I saw a plethora of Black students show up in their beautiful brilliance, and they were accepted, right? There, I can remember Burbank at the time had its disabled student and it was the kids who had like the cerebral palsies and they would be in their wheelchair or on their cane and stuff. And I remember being in the cafeteria one day where there was a football player and he was bullying this kid. He wasn't physically bullying him, but he was picking on him, right? And I'm a girl, and this is a football player, easily 250, 260 pounds. And when I saw it, I stepped to bruh and I was like, nah, leave him alone. And this is a little Black kid. I swear Sean was the coolest. I mean, you couldn't always understand what Sean was saying. And he walked with a limp, and I want to say he had cerebral palsy. But it was two of them. They were both Black. It was a Black girl and a Black boy, and they were in that special class. And I just had a love and affection, maybe because I came from a household where my father was physically handicapped. So I had a super hyper vigilance of, I'm going to make sure when I see people out in society that are potentially can be taken advantage of, I'm going to do something about that. And so seeing Sean being bullied, like I remember his name. I can see myself in the cafeteria stopping this kid, or at least stepping in thinking that I'm stopping it, right? Because I don't know if it happened again. But I can also remember this kid wanted to go to senior ball, and he did, and he was doped out because his parents was like, you gonna do this. But we grew up in a time where in our communities, we protected one another because we saw each other like, I see you, I see your melanin.
For whatever you is. That's important.
Today, because we're so scattered, I don't see our kids having the articulation or the wherewithal to connect those dots for each other.
That's
one of my former professors and former president of Spelman College wrote a book called Why Do Black Kids Sit Together in the Cafeteria? And it's a study. She has a doctor psychology background. Check that book out, because one of the things that we know for sure is we might not be in the same classes or on the same academic level and track, but when we see each other in the cafeteria, it's like, it's the proverbial head nod. It's the proverbial like, what's up? I see you, right? And so even if we ain't on the same level and all these other folks don't see us on the same level, we see that the playing field is equal when we get in that cafeteria.
Yeah.
Like, did you catch that last night show? For us, it was, did you catch, Different World last night? Or Moesha,
It's the commonality. It's the, and I think,
Sonia, of what it means to come from a Black household.
Yes, everybody, we talking about a young kid in Ohio, a 9th grader, a young Black child who was bullied and beat up by 5 students because he didn't want to help them with their schoolwork or something along these lines, right? And to me, this happens a lot, but the bigger thing is, as parents, we got to look at, sometimes you got to hear about bullying and how a kid gets treated bad at school. And you got to look at your kid and say, is my kid the bully or the one being bullied? Because sometimes you will say, you know what, this is how you stop a bully. This is what you do.
Right.
Your kid just may be the bully, right? So you got to look at your kid's temperament around the house. Do they have brothers and sisters? Do they have cousins? Do they attempt to dominate other kids? Right. Like sometimes, Sonia, I think we ignore what we see from our children. And he grew up and killed somebody and you crying, but when he was 9, he grabbed that frog by the neck.
All the signs were there.
He grabbed that frog by the neck and squeezed the life out of him, and he was smiling when he was done.
Right.
That's it. Our children, the kids we raise, you shouldn't be surprised who they are when they're 25, 26,
Absolutely.
27. Because as a kid, they're giving you signs. You just have to be in tune with it based on your level of maturity. Yes. Sometimes we got young parents around based on your level of maturity, based on your level of structure, based on what's going on in your life. Sometimes we get busy with work in our relationship and not having money, and your kid can become a footnote in the house.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? And then you get mad when they end up doing something in the street or doing something to another kid, when in actuality, he been crying out for attention since he was 5.
Yeah.
And you making excuses about it.
Yep.
You bring them to the store and you can't control. You're going to see the signs of, okay, maybe I need to make changes. Because when we see the bullying, Sonia, on all sides of it, I always going back to the parental aspect. Yeah, you can have a perfect kid in the house and he goes to school and do some shit you didn't have no idea he was going to do.
No idea.
That happens. But I think most times, if you're paying attention to your kid, you're talking to them, talking about their interactions in school. Who's your friends? Why do you like them? Why you don't like them? I just seen you do something after school where you pushed your kid. What was that about?
What was that about?
Right? Getting a business.
Yes.
So to say, there's a way to do this because, again, when traumatic things happen to children, they bottle it up. A lot of times they bottle it up and then they do something that's horrible and they say, you know what? That was my fault.
Yeah.
That's what you don't want a child, a person to do that's getting abused.
Yeah.
The worst thing they can say is, yeah, I'm being abused, but what did I do to cause this? That can create a lot of strife in anybody's life. You know what I mean? So shout out to that young brother. I think, hopefully he's okay. And it didn't say the actions his parents were going to take, but the kids were expelled or suspended, so the kids aren't there no more. Some of the people around was trying to say the kids are from a gang or something. Whatever the case may be, get the kids out of the school. But the parent, all the adults around, these situations should put us on high alert. If I'm a teacher, let me dig in a little more. If my kid go to this school, let me go up there a couple days out of the week, see what's going on, see if I can help out, see if I can show my presence as a Black mother or father. You know what I mean? So shout out to that young brother. But man, me and Sonya gonna keep talking about how we are treated. And really, we ain't just gonna talk about like the system is doing us wrong. Yes, that's happening. But your job as a parent, you can have just as much as a negative effect on your kid's life as white supremacy.
Absolutely. And it is a part of white supremacy. Let's be very clear.
Come on now.
That it's a part of white supremacy because on the slave plantation, there was a house Negro and there was a field Negro. And intentionally by design, they were separated and fed psychologically different information about who is on a higher level of hierarchy based on their positioning on that slave plantation. Yep. We are living in modern day slave plantations and we had our position in place. And so let's be very clear about who we are and how we show up in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to perpetuate a slave plantation to my fellow brethren and sisterin. I want to show up where we can all get it, because
Mm-hmm.
there's too many resources in this world for us not to all be winning. And
Yep.
that's my, hopefully the message that we send through doing these conversations on a weekly basis is that, yeah, we're talking about some of the negative things that happen in community, but at the end of the day, our resilience, our ability to fight back is so super greater than all of the things that have ever been thrown at us, because we've made it to this point in history.
Come on now.
Right?
Come on now.
Yeah.
Yep. So before we get out of here, this is Women's History Month. Me and Sonia co-opted it and made it Black Women's History Month. so, so we got 2 months, two
Right.
months in a row. And throughout my life, Sonia, that's why I want to talk about this with you. I didn't know that March was Women's History Month.
Yeah.
I just didn't know. But now we're going to have 2 Black History Months in a row. So who I want to talk about today, and this is a sister that I've heard her name throughout my life, but I see the documentary about her, and it really changed my perspective on her as an individual. I want to talk today, Sonia, about Nina Simone, right? Because something I didn't know, Nina Simone was her stage name, but she was born Eunice Kathleen Wayman in Tyrone, North Carolina in 1933. She began playing the piano at like age 3. Her mother and her father did their best to kind of put her in a position where this was, they knew this was something she wanted to do, so they helped her out. She became very, very proficient at the piano, and like her music acumen was divine at like a really young age. So everybody look up Nina Simone and everything she's contributed to our society. But really, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about her, Sonia, because her musicianship was bar none, but her revolutionary spirit, like listening to this sister talk and the work that she was denied and what she refused to do.
Right.
Similar to Muhammad Ali, it affected her pay. It affected her state of mind, just because she was willing to stand for what she believed in. You know what I mean?
I love like when I say I have heroes and sheroes in history, and it's a tie for me between Fannie Lou Hamer and Nina Simone. Nina Simone, when I was younger, I heard Mississippi Goddamn. And so if you've never heard her song Mississippi Goddamn, you hear the raspiness in her voice, and it's like, oh my God, it entrenches you. You get mesmerized, you get in a trance listening to her sing the song, but more importantly, the lyrics of that song, right? Like Mississippi, how dare you, hang us and lynch us and keep your foot on our neck. How dare you treat the people who built this country in such a way? How dare you not give us our 40 acres and a mule? She was like the unspoken, that she was a force to be reckoned with. But again, we never know who and how someone gets the confidence to be their natural, authentic, unapologetic self, because we're talking about a woman who lived during a time period where you would swear you better shut your mouth, bow your head, and keep on about your business, little Black girl. Not just a little Black girl, dark skin, woolly hair, tall, outspoken, big lip, big nose, all of the things. I can remember my high school coach and advisor. I had a conversation with him a couple of years ago. This is John Copeland. Shout out to him and all of the wonderful ways that he motivated people in and around Sacramento, California. But I had a conversation with him when I was finishing up the completion of my first book. And I wanted him to, write a statement. I had asked several of my former teachers to write a statement that I wanted to put in my book about what kind of student I was. And we had this conversation that led to, baby girl, you wasn't supposed to make it. And I had to ask, why, Cope, did you think that? And his response was, the way our world and society is set up, a little girl from Oakland who landed in Meadowview, who went to a school that was considered the hood school, dark skinned, big lipped, not not the beauty standard of what the world back in the 80s appreciated and celebrated. You weren't supposed to make it. And
Mhm.
look at what you've been able to accomplish. And
Yep.
I had to really sit with myself, right? And this is someone who's not my family member, but is my chosen family member, right?
Hmm.
This is someone whose voice I trust and I respect. But I also grew up in a household where my mother and my father said, baby, you the best thing since sliced bread. You pretty, you smart, you anything you want to do, the world is yours. And so I had to balance and juggle that reality. To me, that's Nina Simone for me, because she, at some point in her life, realized I might not be beautiful to you, but I'm going to do all of the things that I find that make me feel good as a person and the way I contribute. And she was so unapologetic about it. Like, she didn't try to get out there and change, not a dang. She wasn't trying to bleach her skin and be like, oh, I need to be lighter. No, she was, I am this, and you are going to accept this. And so she is, oh my goodness, such an amazing force. And that's why she's one of my sheroes, but she should be celebrated. Everyone should know who Nina Simone is.
Yeah, and this sister had over like 40 albums.
Yep.
She had a lot of great songs that was dedicated to our struggle.
Yes.
And really, I implore everyone to go, I think it's on Netflix, and watch the documentary about this sister's life. She was just so unapologetic, like her approach in her transparency, because you're mentioning things about your correlation to her, and she mentioned how she looked, and during the doc she knew how she looked, she knew how she sounded, she didn't take shit from nobody. And that's really the main reason I wanted to bring this lady up. When I look at Black women in our society and are just the dynamics between us as Black men and Black women, everything we've had to go through together, the strength that our Black women display is bar none. But the women from our history who stood in the face of racism when it was at its height,
right,
and still spoke so confidently, still said, fuck your money.
Right.
See, we talking about being on code here in actuality. Fuck your money. Fuck what you offered me. I'm going to stand for this because this is a part of my history. This is who my people are. And she traveled the world. She lived in Switzerland, Netherlands, France. Like, she lived in all these different places, but she brought her Blackness with her everywhere. And some Black folks don't realize, if you are proud of who you are, the white people you interact, the non-Black people you interact, they're either going to get the fuck away from you or they're going to respect you.
Absolutely.
You see, if you go around them acting like them, trying to kowtow to what they think, well now, okay, you just the one Black guy in the crew, and they're going to get to saying all type of nigga jokes, and it's not going to be respect there. But if you stand on your square about loving who you are, loving being Black, that's why I wear my shirts. That's why I created this platform. I wear this shirt in any place I go to. You want to talk about it? Let's talk about it. But I'm not going to deny how I feel about myself to make you feel comfortable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So everybody, do me a favor and look up Nina Simone.
Yes.
From Women's History Month, just do yourself a service and look up other Black women from our history.
Yeah.
Watch the documentaries, read the books, get the information, use it as a source of empowerment, family. So this is your brother Harrison, Melanated Convo Podcast. Thank you again, my sister Sonia. We doing this Saturday thing. I thank you for joining me. Tell everybody where they can find you, Sonia.
You can find me at ascribesuccess.com. That's ASCRIBE success.com.
There we go. And you can find me at Melanated Convo 100 is the Instagram page. If you want a shirt, Melanated Convo Pod at Gmail, or my social media, Harrison Anderson, Melanated Convo 100. Any place you see me, order the shirt. I'll ship it right to you, hit you with the invoice. We're going to do good business. You know what I mean? But support your boy. You feel me? So this has been your brother Harrison, Melanated Convo Podcast. Like, subscribe. All numbers are going up. They're going up slow, family, but they're going up. Continue to support your boy. I see some people like listening to the show more than watching the video. That's fine. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all these places you can find the Melanated Convo Podcast. This is your brother Harrison, my sister Sonia. We out.